speakers from MIT, Cindy Cao, and she's going to talk about the front and back stages of social interaction in the workplace, looking at it from a mug interface.
Hi, everyone. I'm Cindy Cao from the MIT Media Lab, and so thank you all for staying until the last talk of the day. And so we are very interested in looking at objects for expressive forms of communication in the workplace. So we have seen a lot of work in embedding hardware and electronics into everyday objects to make them more functional and also more responsive. However, we are interested in leveraging technology to go beyond purposes of utility and to see how we can make an object more expressive, more communicative, and also even more social. And so as a first step into this direction, we look into an object of frequent usage in the office space, the coffee mug, and we see how we can make it more communicative. And so we found the mug interesting because it is a mobile object that we actually carry around with us in the workplace. So we will carry the mug to public areas such as coffee machine areas or lounges or meeting spaces, but we will also carry it back into our personal office spaces or cubicles. So we see this mobility of the mug as an interesting design material to enable different modes of social interaction through the mug as the interface. And to further bring out the communicative qualities of this mug, we embed a OLED display onto the mug exterior to enable more expressive forms of visual communication. And so in the interaction design of MugShots, we are very inspired by Irving Goffman's theoretical metaphor of front and back stages in social interaction. So Goffman says that we are all like individuals or actors on a stage. So there's like this front stage where we are in front of an audience and where a desired self or a desired image of ourself is presented to the audience. However, when we leave the front stage and go into the backstage, a more personal or private space, this is where we can sort of take off this desired image that we project to others and where we can be our normal selves and show a side that we would otherwise not show other people. And so inspired by this front and backstage interaction mode, we also designed MugShots to have a public area mode that maps to the front stage and also a personal office mode that maps to the backstage. And so when the mug is brought to a public area, it becomes a catalyst to trigger conversation with colleagues in a workplace. And so the mug will switch to a public image of the user's choice that he or she is comfortable with displaying to her colleagues and the rest of the world. However, when the mug is taken back to the personal office space, it switches to an intimate image from a close friend or a family member, and it becomes an intimate communication device that the user will be more comfortable with using in a intimate setting. And so here's a clip demonstrating the mug switching from a more personal mode into a more public setting. And so now we can see that user is receiving a image from a close family member, her mom. And so this is like the intimate backstage communication channel. However, when the user takes the mug and is moving from a more intimate and personal space and going out into a public space, we designed the mug to automatically switch to a public image that the user is comfortable with displaying to the rest of the world. And we explore how we can use the mug with this public image as a social interaction trigger to invite informal interaction with colleagues in a workspace. Cool. So some of the background grounding this work, so we were very inspired by work by Carey Hollis and Donath and social catalysts. So social catalysts are objects or events that simulate a mutual involvement for people to engage in conversation. And so a very good example is if you have a pet, it will often serve as your social catalyst to invite strangers and people you otherwise would not talk to start initiate a conversation with you. And so we also see MugShots as potential to serve as as a social catalyst? Well, first of all, due to its mobility, because it is something we will carry with us to a public area and increasing the probability of social interaction, and also because we often already signal personal qualities through the mugs we own. So let's say today I have a Stanford mug, then that might signal that I might be affiliated with Stanford or I identify with Stanford University, but today if I'm holding a mug that says world's best mom or best dad, that might signal something about the role I play in my family. And so moving on into looking at a mug not just as an object of utility, but also as an evocative object, something that we form an emotional connection to over time. So actually a lot of us, if you've owned the mug for a couple of months or a couple of years, you would definitely be very sad if you lost it, because over time you form an emotional connection with it. So also exploring using a intimate object as an alternative channel for communication. And so in the current MugShots prototype, it's implemented with a 1.5 square inch OLED display, fabricated with a 3D printer onto the mug exterior, and so the user can easily upload images onto the mug and change images through a web and phone user interface. And so in the interaction design, we designed the mug to switch automatically between the private office mode, the backstage, and also the public area mode, the front stage. And we currently implement this using a Wi-Fi chip, so it would switch based on different Wi-Fi signal strengths. And we are also working on a even more robust version using iBeacons to allow for more granularity and location tracking. So with this current prototype, we conducted an initial exploratory study with 21 participants, and each study for each user took about 1 hour. And so first we would ask the user to select images of their choice and to upload it onto the mug to display for the public mode. And we also with the researcher acting as like a family member or like a close friend, when the user brings a bug to their private office space or cubicle, they will receive image updates on their mug. And so we also encourage the user to walk around their mugs in their office and out into public areas to sort of get a feel of the dual modes and also the image switching. And we focus on qualitative feedback in this initial study. And so some of the results, so most of our participants, they found the dual modes appealing, and they found the mug to be considerate to the needs for different levels of self-revelation in the workplace. And so we found this to sort of echo Goffman's front and backstage social interaction theory. And however, there were a few participants who did not like the personal office modes due to privacy concerns. They were very scared that the system would break down and like expose their personal images to their colleagues, so they only wanted like a more safer public mode. And also like exploring like if it was appealing as a social catalyst. So most of our participants were very receptive towards having a public image to serve as a topic finder or a conversation trigger when they brought it to a public area. And 7 of them were especially enthusiastic when doing the user study. They deliberately selected images that they thought would trigger a conversation or to get people to talk to them. And so what we're saying here is that like we're observing initial very positive attitudes towards using the mug as a social catalyst, but we're not claiming that it works as one, because this would require a much longer term study to claim shifts in behavior change. And with image selection, so we let the users decide what type of images they wanted to put on the mug for different, to display to their colleagues in the public mode. And we found it interesting that people from different cultures and demographic had very different image preferences. So we had some participants from like East Asian countries that are very enthusiastic about putting on emojis because they're very familiar with using them in messaging apps popular in their countries. And some others, they identify strongly with certain sports teams or corporations, and they saw this as a representation of their identity to their colleagues. And still others, they wanted to bring out sides of their personal lives into this more public area to show to their colleagues as a conversation trigger. So they would put up images of their recent weekend hiking trip or food from restaurants that they went to that they thought was delicious. And so we found it interesting how people would express different layers of their self-identity through their image selection. And with the display placement, so the current display placement is designed to be facing inward, to be facing the user. So some people like this, but some people would prefer the display to be facing outward, saying it was more visible. But some people would say, oh, can I like have it in the middle? It's like best of both worlds. Like I can't decide. And also with the display size, so some people thought the current 1.5-inch square inch was too small. They were enthusiastic about like a more like a wraparound display, a flexible wraparound display. However, other people, they prefer the current size, saying it was it's like visible, but not like too in your face. And so some lessons learned. So first of all, privacy. So we found that so we designed MugShots to enable different layers of self-expression and self-revelation in the workplace. However, since maintaining a professional image is critical in a work environment, so we find it very important for the system to very robustly switch out of the personal mode whenever the user enters a public space to enable real-life usage and deployment in an actual workplace. And also to express more levels of freedom in using MugShots for expression. So we are looking at if we can get our hands on some large flexible displays to wrap them around the mug, and the user can decide the size of the image, where they want to place the image, and what type of images they want to show. So in conclusion, we present MugShots, a first exploration in objects for communication. And through our 21-person user study, they found the idea attractive for enhancing social interaction, and we also identified some areas for future iterations. So thank you very much. I'll be happy to take questions.
All right, thank you. Okay, any questions? Nope. I have a question. So you said that people expressed concern about privacy when they're in their, what that picture might be. And I could imagine, and I'm wondering if you saw this, if someone walks into my office and I have some private picture, I would just turn the mug, which is the advantage, of course, of a tangible object versus a computer screen where you can't do much about your backdrop. Did you see that behavior at all?
Yes. So through like our user studies, we found a need to probably incorporate like a interruption stage when like other people walk into their office spaces to sort of turn it off and then turn it on when the people exit, because like the office is still like a come and go environment.
Yeah. Okay, thank you very much. All right, so last hand for all 5 of our speakers. We covered a broad range of interaction.